because do you track macros?
No.
Neither of us track macros. It's working out pretty well.
Say so. Especially for you.
Ready or not, welcome to another episode of the CBG Radio Podcast. We've got a good one for you today. We're going to be talking about several things that do not burn body fat for you. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, a lot of things getting conflated. Now, we're not going to act like we're experts in these things. There might be health benefits to them. But we've been seeing a lot of things on Instagram and, you know, all the influencers out there. They try to talk about these things as if these are secrets to burning more body fat or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to miss the forest for the trees. And but we want to point some of these things out. So the first one, team, to talk about. Now, this is actually, I guess this might be a little bit different, right? This is actually lowering your cortisol does not burn more body fat, which means cortisol also does not make you fat.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What have you guys been seeing about cortisol?
I've been seeing a bunch of these really silly Instagram posts. And listen, if you're going to be an Instagram influencer and that's how you're going to make your money, more power to you. Like, I understand it has to be something interesting. It has to get people in. But to suggest that the reason you look 40 pounds lighter is not because you've lost 40 pounds, it's because you've lowered your cortisol, is crazy. And if you are somebody who is consuming content on the internet and you see somebody telling you that they look so incredible because they lowered their cortisol, if it looks like they've lost a lot of body fat, please just assume that they've lost a lot of body fat and their cortisol levels have not changed the way that their face looks.
Exactly. I'm trying to bring up the thing, my internet, just like all of a sudden, you guys can still hear me and see me, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
All right. I'm trying to bring this up and my internet's going crazy. All right, go ahead, Justin, while I'm trying to find this.
Yeah, cortisol is obviously a naturally occurring hormone. It spikes and usually in the morning time and, you know, under stress and things like that. And it goes in waves and it's, you know, natural and necessary for your body. I think, you know, for me, I see a lot of like the fear mongering thing around cortisol out there to not spike it and not elevate it. Cortisol is elevated at like when you wake up in the morning and then also like after workouts and things like that, right? Which is like a good natural response that your body wants. And so trying to remove cortisol from your life completely is extremely dangerous. Like we need cortisol. And imagine like thinking about it this way. Whenever I think about a concept like this, and I imagine like, all right, let's say this person's eating 2,000 calories and this person's eating 2,000 calories and this person has, or this person's eating 2,500 calories. This person's eating 2,000 and the person that's eating 2,500 like moderates their cortisol lower than the 2,000. It's not going to make a difference. The person eating 2,500 is still going to be not able to lose weight or have whatever sort of response they want from it if they're trying to be in a deficit. Whereas the person with 2,000 will have lost weight if that's a deficit for them. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's just the way your body works. So,
yeah, I think people maybe misunderstand that if cortisol was so terrible for you, why would we secrete it? Like there's a purpose for cortisol and it's very important. That's why it's something that exists in our bodies. So see, like this woman obviously just lost a lot of weight, which is why she looks so different. It has nothing to do with her cortisol. And remember that if we're going to relate cortisol to stress, right, and it is a stress hormone, we've also got to understand what happens psychologically and emotionally when we're under a lot of stress. So people that are highly stressed out tend to use food to cope. They tend to not get as much sleep. They tend to, be unable to prioritize exercise or a caloric deficit. And so that's why oftentimes we see people that have elevated cortisol levels not able to lose weight. It's not because they are completely stuck because their cortisol levels are high and so therefore they can't lose body fat. It's because oftentimes their lifestyle things are getting in the way. And people are very sensitive about this, but sometimes you may think that you're in a caloric deficit, but you're not.
Yeah.
And
go ahead,
Joel.
Well, I just was going to point out that what I what this lady, and kind of what we're tackling then is this thought, though, that she calls it a cortisol hacking face routine.
No.
Like, that's just
No,
that's
she did.
silly. So it's like we can recognize, like Gab's pointing out, we can recognize there might be health benefits to having your hormones operating correctly because of those issues, right? Because then you're less likely to overeat and stress eat and all those things. But to suggest that your face is going to go from that round to that skinny through a cortisol hack, like, I mean, that's kind of the charlatan stuff we're talking about.
No. Yeah, I mean, cortisol in and of itself can do a lot of things, right? It regulates energy levels. It helps with inflammation control, which is, I think, where the weight loss like crack was found. Like, oh, it helps with inflammation. Like, it must help with weight loss if I just like down regulate my cortisol response for everything, you know. And it helps with like your sleep regulation cycle, you know, your wake and sleep cycle, right? And so with those things in mind, right, those things, because of cortisol, can affect weight loss, right? So like if you're not sleeping well, that can affect weight loss because you make poor decisions with food and other things because you're not sleeping well. So it's not irrespective of what you're eating. It actually goes right into what you're eating and makes the effect that, you know, people are talking about. So we're not saying don't like try to obviously lower your stress levels throughout the day, right? Like we don't want random stress levels because that does cause the emotional eating, getting out of the deficit, sleeping poorly, not, you know, you not wanting to train or train hard, right? All those things are what affects the weight loss outcome at the end of the day.
Yeah.
What's the next one, Joel, after cortisol that you guys, because I don't even know these, but red light.
Yeah, Justin's getting surprised here.
Okay.
That's what we like to do. We like to get his actual reactions here. All right, so we got red light therapy. So I looked into this a little bit, and here's some examples of things that you can buy for home. All right, so here's what Google says red light therapy is. It is a treatment that uses low energy red light to stimulate cell regeneration and blood flow. It's also known as a lower level laser therapy. Now, there might be these benefits here, but again, people are make it seem like, similar to the cortisol hack, that red light therapy is somehow going to make them burn more fat. So now, I don't know if how familiar you guys are with any type of light therapy. So what I'll say is I find it plausible that there could be benefits to light therapy for two anecdotal reasons, my own reasons. One is my son was born a little jaundice when he was first born, and they gave him this thing they called a Billy blanket. So I guess bilirubin is the something that's somehow connected to jaundice, being jaundice, this hormone called bilirubin. And so this Billy blanket was this light blanket that they gave him, and it literally just was like this blue light that we wrapped around him, and it would, you know, he had to be no clothes on or anything other than that blanket directly onto his skin, and they called it phototherapy. And so I could see how there might be something to red light therapy, and I'm even interested in it with like when it talks about like skin stuff, because especially in the winter, like I get some eczema patches and stuff like that. But I'm also not going to be conned into thinking that somehow red light therapy is going to make me burn more fat. So, are you guys got any thoughts on red light therapy?
Yeah, it's impossible. It'd be like this, just because you're out in the sun, you're burning more fat than if you're not, you know, like it just doesn't make any sense. I think people, like, this is the way it goes, right? And we've done this for years, is we try to find the easiest ways to be able to get what we want with doing the least amount possible. This is not a unique thing to any one individual human. This is a human behavior based thing. It's our body's natural thing to do. So it's like, hey, how can I make $1 million the fastest and the easiest? How can I lose weight the fastest and the easiest? Right. That's just how we are. We want to preserve as much energy as possible. We're naturally known and want to be as lazy as we can. Right. And so out of this and out of all the technology and all the things that have happened in the 20th century and now the 21st century that we've developed that have benefits, we will find any way to figure out how we can lose body fat without lifting a finger. And so that's where the red light therapy stuff comes in. Right now, red light therapy does have some benefits in general. Right, it can help improve recovery a little bit. People have reported better sleep quality. There are some randomized control trials there. There are no randomized control trials on fat loss. Those things indirectly can improve with fat loss. Right, if you sleep better or you recover better, that can help. But it's not irrespective again of calories. Right, that's the number one thing. Now, if red light therapy helps you sleep better, which then helps moderate your calories better, then okay, yeah, we could say that it aided in your journey, right, as one of the things you've done. But it's not. It's really just one of the pathways that helped you get there, right? And it probably was a very small, insignificant portion.
Yeah. I think people need to understand that there is a correlation between doing something that feels beneficial for your health and the consequences that that has on the rest of your day. So if you're starting your day with 45 minutes of red light therapy and it makes you feel really good, and then therefore when you go to make breakfast, you skip the sugary cereal and instead you have a very high protein breakfast, then yeah, that may just influence you to, it may have influenced you to have make better choices and take better care of yourself. But that doesn't mean that it is the cause, right? Correlation does not equal causation. So I'm all about doing things that make you feel good, doing things that make you want to make better choices for yourself. But we cannot say that the red light therapy is the reason. You're still making better nutritional choices. You're making better lifestyle choices. And at the end of the day, the only thing that will cause fat loss is a caloric deficit. End of sentence.
There you go. All right. The next one is a cold plunge.
I was hoping you guys brought this one. I was like, yep, cold plunge better be in here. I'm fucking adding it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the worst. This is the worst one in my opinion. I mean, I do see a lot of people online, and now it's these like camps of community, like, oh, if you don't cold plunge, you're like a little bitch, like whatever you know what I'm saying? So now it makes me even more mad because now I'm getting characterized, but it doesn't do really anything. I think there are a few recovery benefits, very minor that, but that's it in terms of fat loss, right? Obviously the way we burn fat is, it's through a thermic effect, right? So we obviously ingest calories, we burn calories through running and doing different things. And then we either lose it in our heat, our body gives off heat in a variety of other ways. And what can happen when, you're in a cold plunge is, your body temperature has to basically keep internally warm. And so your body's fighting to do that. And your body's like, obviously burning calories trying to do that. The amount of calories that you're burning inside of a 1-minute ice bath at that temperature, or even a 15-minute ice bath at a higher temperature, is so insignificantly small that you've basically burned 25 calories, probably less, doing an ice bath. It's not helping with your fat loss. It's not at all. And so if you hate doing ice baths and you're that person out there like early morning, like getting it in or whatever after your workout, whatever you do, right? I highly suggest that you stop because it's not really worth it. And also the benefits of ice baths in terms of recovery have shown to do on your off days, not on any of the days that you're working out, because you're actually stunning some of the growth and adaptation processes that body naturally goes through in order to improve physically, whether it be performance or with anything else, right? Or muscle recovery, like building more, any of that stuff, right? So don't even do it on your days you work out. It's not even helping with the recovery aspect.
Yeah, I've read that too.
Yeah, do it on your off days. Yeah.
And I think, again, this is one of those things where I think there are people find benefits to it in different ways.
Yeah.
Now, I've tried cold plunging before. I don't know if you guys have tried it before, but I've tried it before. And the way that I could describe it is when I was done for like a while afterwards, I the only way I could describe it was I felt like I was vibrating, like my skin, because my
Right.
body like released all these like endorphins and probably adrenaline or something. I don't know, but like
Yeah.
I was just like vibrating everywhere. And I did feel like more alert and things like this. They talk about those types of things. So I could see somebody in the morning if that's like their morning routine and how they get ready for the day. Okay. But yeah, we don't want to conflate it with helping with fat loss. Gab, you got something?
Yeah.
So when I was training to run the Keys 100, which was a 100-mile marathon, one of my sponsors was a like a wellness place that had a cryotherapy chamber. And so I got to go there for free, and I was doing cryotherapy for like 3 to 4 times a week. And I think that there are maybe some acute benefits like what Joel is talking about. But I think what's really interesting about the cold plunge thing is that a lot of these cryotherapy places that were popular like 5, 6 years ago are having a really hard time operating because the cost of having one of those cryotherapy chambers versus like what people are willing to pay to do it is just not
Yeah.
sustainable. So I think the cold plunge thing is kind of a result of the cryotherapy thing not really being worth it. Because it feels like they're kind of saying the same thing. Obviously, cryo is a shorter time period. It's a little easier on like the person doing it. But cold plunge you can have in your home, right? It's much more affordable to
Yeah.
have, on the individual level. Easier for businesses to operate. But ultimately, in my personal experience, what I found was that if I was running in the cold, a lot of my training was over the winter, being outside for an extended period of time in the cold had the same feeling and benefits, and taking a cold shower had the same feeling and benefits. And ultimately, like all of these things, again, we have to keep in mind like the psychological impact. If somebody tells you, if you get in this tub for 2 minutes, when you get out, you're going to feel euphoric. Like, yeah, of course, when you get out, you're going to be like, oh my God, yeah, I do feel euphoric. It's not, you can't assume that means that these things are actually happening. And I think there are some studies out there about what it does to your adrenal system and, whatever. But ultimately for fat loss, like, there is nobody who lives in a cold climate who can eat more calories and not gain weight because of the climate in which they live. That is just, you have to think with your rational mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like everybody in Alaska, if they're on the same diet as you, are just like skinny. No, they're not.
Right.
They're overweight people in Alaska, same as here, or Iceland or wherever, right? It's just the
Yeah.
exact, it's no different. With the ice bath or cold plunge or whatever it is, right? I think too, right? Your cortisol is spiking, right? And we can't lose weight if our cortisol spikes, right, Gab? So
Right.
another reason to not do cold therapy.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think all jokes aside with that, yeah, I think a lot of the cryotherapy and all this stuff is like priced with these priced in within mind that like it does all these amazing things when it doesn't do those things. And so obviously when people catch on that it's not, right, then they're gonna quit paying that amount for it,
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, one last share about cold plunge because we all know someone that that lives in our heart. We like her. She likes cold plunges.
We do? Oh,
Yeah.
Paige.
Oh, Paige. We love you, Paige.
I found this. So we poo-pooed a little bit on cold plunging, Paige, but I think she makes a good point in what I can agree with about people that do enjoy this. So it says, why do you go in the lake in the wintertime? She says, think of a time when you confronted your discomfort. Do you feel accomplished or proud of doing the hard thing? It's like that makes you feel alive. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can all get
Listen,
down with that.
that's great. Do hard things. Get tough. I love that. But like, that's not why Paige has a low body fat percentage.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
can
And she doesn't make that claim either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can pick a lot of other things that are much harder to do that are going to provide way more benefit than doing a freaking cold plunge. So I'm going to choose to do something different that's really hard so that I can actually benefit more from it than that. You know,
All right. So you'll never see Paige. You'll never see Justin getting in a cold lake.
you never will
with you.
ever. I won't do it. I won't do it for charity. Like I won't. I just won't do it. I'll just donate double. I don't give a shit. I'm not going. I'm not doing it. I just don't want to do it. I don't care for it. It doesn't do anything for me.
Nice. All
I
right.
love it.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna do a quick one on this just to bring it up. I don't think we have much to say about it, but just to show it. It's this thing called dry brushing, which I'd never even really heard of before
Dry
until
brushing.
I started seeing these videos.
This
So I'll
this is Housewives of New Jersey shit they do, or what?
Yep.
It is.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it.
So it says that it's a practice where you massage your dry skin with a brush containing stiff bristles, primarily used to exfoliate dead skin cells, stimulate circulation, and potentially support lymphatic drainage. So there you go.
And you just brush yourself with like is it a special? It's like a special type of brush, or what kind
It
of
looks
brush?
like a horse brush. Like you
Yeah.
look like you're playing ponies.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah, I had a video,
hear
I think, of
I
someone
had
doing
seen
it, but
people
yeah, they
talk
just
about
were
that.
like, they just were doing this.
Yeah,
I'm
they
gonna
just
say
do it.
something.
Yeah.
The words lymphatic drainage are very triggering for me.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like something you'd want.
It's like
It sounds nasty.
I don't know any like bodily processes that require me to like, oh, time to like flip the switch and drain my lymph nodes. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, no, it makes no sense. Wow. Okay, definitely stay away. This might be the worst one, I think, of all of them. That doesn't do anything.
All right, the last one is ordered eating. So what ordered eating is where you save your I guess maybe faster digesting carbs for last. So you eat anything that's protein and fat first, and then your other carbs last. The idea, I guess, behind it is that it slows down the digestion process of those carbs, and then your blood sugar won't spike. So we talked about insulin and all that stuff a lot.
Yeah, it's an attempt to limit your post-meal glucose increase.
So I'll tell everybody a little bit about how this works. So whenever you're eating carbohydrates, right, depending on the carbohydrate, if it's very sugary carbohydrate, it gets converted into glucose pretty quickly. All carbohydrates get converted into glucose, but some are quicker than others, right? Now, if you eat something that's slower digesting, okay, let's say a carbohydrate that's not as sugary, right? Or fat, for example, which is very slow digesting, or even protein, which is fairly slow digesting as well, depending on the protein source. All of that stuff comes together in your stomach and creates a new rate of digestion, right? So, as an example, fat itself will lower the total digestion of other foods, right? And even slow down the blood sugar spike increase of carbohydrates if ingested together. This idea that you need to lower your blood glucose level in general, it doesn't matter, because overall it's just going to be the same amount of glucose that gets digested and absorbed anyway. But secondly, all of that stuff, unless you're eating it like 2 hours apart, it's all going to sit in the stomach, and then it's going to actually get to a rate of digestion that's applicable to the meal itself. It's not within a long enough time frame to like matter, basically, the way you're ordered eating or whatever you're doing, right? And so that is why it doesn't matter like what you eat, your carbs first, you eat your high glycemic carbs first, or your protein first, or your fat first. It doesn't matter. It's all going to get there, and then it's all going to decide how it's going to be digested and absorbed, right? And then what the total GI glycemic index or your blood sugar is going to be from there, right? So yeah, it's not going to do anything, unfortunately.
I also think, again, we're conflating the like short-term acute effects of something with like long-term effects. So for example, when you eat dietary fat, you like that impedes the flow mediated dilation, which is like a risk for cardiovascular disease. So the question then becomes like, should you never eat fat? But it's like that dilation that's happening right there is not a long-term effect. It's not going to stay like that forever, right? So if somebody has dilation, like, yeah, that's a big problem, but not if it's only for a short period of time. It's the same thing with like exercise increases your heart rate and increases your blood pressure. And those things are bad if they're constant, but it's not bad because it's happening in the short term after exercise. In fact, it actually is a good thing because it lowers those things in the long term. So this people can make a lot of money by inventing a problem, coming up with a solution, and then selling it to you. But that doesn't mean that it's actually a problem. This is all just very like orchestrated, like buy this supplement because it's going to lower your post-meal glucose levels. Like you don't need to. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is something I was looking at the other day. Like the closest you are more closest to dying right after your workout.
Yeah.
Like you are the least fit person right after your workout.
Yeah.
The least fit, right? Like you're out of breath, like all of that stuff. Like you are
Your
the least
immune
fit.
system is compromised. Yeah.
Everything's fucked at that point, right? And so as you adapt out of that, you get fitter and better, and later on, you're a better overall person for having worked out. But right after your workout, you're screwed. You're closer to death than you were the entire day, and everything is your body hates it, right? And so yeah, that's the same thing with what you said, Gab, is like the short term something that occurs in your body and with your physiology is a short term thing that is not the overall or overarching impact of benefit, right? And so that's where people develop these little cranny little problems, and then they try to develop solutions and sell you. So yeah, the ordered eating thing, back to that just to finish off. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you eat your carbs first on your plate, your protein, your fats, just eat.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I would say that, like, for me personally, I typically eat my protein first just because I don't want to get full on the other stuff and not get my protein in. So that's the only reason why
Yeah.
That's
I would
reasonable.
eat in that order, is because I prioritize my protein.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, I'm going to eat my meat first. And then if I don't eat all of my potatoes, then that's fine. Like, as
Right.
long as I got my meat in.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're going to eat the whole plate anyway, you know, you're someone that just finishes your whole plate, then that won't matter either, right? Whether you eat your protein first or not, you know? So, but yeah, an important consideration.
All right. So there you go. There's the things that will not burn body fat. There might be some health benefits to it. We're not completely poo-pooing them all. Maybe the dry brushing. I don't know about that one yet, but
Skip that one. That's
yeah.
the worst.
But the other things, hey, if you find some benefits in them, that's great. But don't conflate them with they're going to make you burn more fat. So don't miss the forest for the trees in that. Keep it simple and keep it consistent. So we'll end it there. So I'm Joel, for Justin, for Gab. Thanks for tuning in. Quit tracking those macros.